grew up where the ground shook to the sound of the smith striking steel on the anvil.
Sam Carter is an award-winning British guitarist, singer, and songwriter. He's based in Sheffield, England. He's released multiple albums and mainly original material, which falls into folk roots category. He's an incredibly talented storyteller, a seasoned performer touring around the world, including multiple trips to Canada, and he's performed his own material on the legendary Jules Holland show. How cool is that? It's great to be on Team 5 with Sam for this global music match journey. I hope you listen to Sam's music and watch his videos and help share it all with your friends. Let me know what you think. Here's my chat with Sam Carter. So my recording, this is so embarrassing, but my recording was paused. So we didn't any of that, but that's okay because
What? But that was gold. That
I
was
know,
absolutely
we're just getting warm up. Do you want me to backtrack? I mean, it's not going to be great, okay, no, but
I don't know if this is going to be like demo-itis where you've made a demo and you're like, oh man, I just can't get the joke right this time.
No, I've got it. Look, watch this. Okay, I'm here with Sam Carter. Thanks for joining us. We actually went through half of the interview and discovered that we weren't recording. So we're back now. And I'm just going to give everyone a summary of what we've already talked about. And really, it's just fun facts about Sheffield, where you're from, right, Sam?
Yep, pretty much. Yeah.
So there were a bunch of cows that took over Crosspool, which is an area in Sheffield. That was one major event that made headlines, but you were not there when that happened.
I was not involved in any way. No.
No, thankfully. And
Just to
Sheffield,
clear that up.
yeah, Sheffield has the most trees per person out of, I guess, any city in Europe, which is quite impressive. And then you were saying that there's a lot of protected land, the peak regions in the area. So that's one of the reasons. And then, okay, this is segueing into back where we were when I realized we were not recording. Did you know that your city runs on recycled energy?
I didn't know it ran entirely. What, does it run on entirely recycled energy? I don't know if it does it?
It says that it has a district energy system that uses domestic waste to produce thermal energy, which is converted to electrical and hot water, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the entire city, but it says the city. So maybe, is your building not?
I didn't actually know that. So that's very interesting. It is quite a green minded city, Sheffield. There's a lot of people that are, ecologically minded, and it's funny, I guess, because it's known for, it has this incredible industrial history as well. And I mean, it's the place that stainless steel was invented. It was invented like 5 minutes down the road from me at a place called Portland Works.
Cool. It's known as the Steel City.
Yeah, spot on. So now the fact that it has this kind of green sort of afterlife, is a cool thing.
Another fun fact: residents sing Christmas carols at pubs with pints of beer in hand. That's a thing that have you ever participated in that?
So Sheffield has its own carols. So there's a unique regional repertoire of carols that are unique to South Yorkshire, I guess you'd say, or Sheffield specifically. And there are a few pubs that have the carol singings every year. And my mate up the road plays the organ for the carols, actually.
Oh, cool.
My mate Simon. And so there's just a few kind of people that do that. And it's a long-standing tradition. And there's some songs that you might recognize, hymns that you might recognize from the more general hymn tradition. But there's some stuff that you'll only hear by people that know the Sheffield carols or people in Sheffield. So it's quite an incredible, like, regional speciality.
Jeez. Okay, this concludes our fun facts about Sheffield. And what an awesome time I've had being introduced to your music and your music videos. In May 2020, you released your new album. It's super beautiful, and I realized how you're just, like, to me, you're a poet. Like, I mean, We have this book of like rock and roll songs that when you read them out loud, they do not read well like a poem should. But in listening to your lyrics, I felt that they would. Like that's why I guess I'm calling you a poet in the truest sense. Um,
Oh, thank
and
you very much.
so I was hearing love stories. Your songs are very narrative, personal, speaking to the human experience. How did you cope with our release during COVID?
Um, yeah, I mean, it was less than ideal, let's put it that way. But yeah, so as you rightly said, the album came out early May, and we were kind of into lockdown by then. And by the time I'd heard, the lockdown was announced, there was no way of stopping the machine. It was kind of, we were too far down the road of promoting it, and I decided just to go for it. And so the album launch tour we had, you probably hear there's a string section on the album, and we had
Yes.
15 dates booked with the strings for 4 or 5 of the gigs. And I was,
Wow.
I was looking forward to it so much because I've, like yourself, I kind of play in a smaller ensemble for most of the time, i.e., just me with my
Yep.
ensemble. And then occasionally, when I've got the budget or there's a big gig or whatever,
Yeah.
I get a band together. But obviously that couldn't happen, and so that was pretty devastating. But instead of kind of getting down about what I couldn't do, I started to think about what I could do,
Yeah.
which was to learn very quickly how to stream an album launch gig, which I did on the date of the release, and to kind of put as much time as possible into kind of making sure people knew about it online. And like we was talking about earlier, the Bandcamp thing, which just happened to be the platform that I was using at the time, helped out with these great Bandcamp Friday things. I think there
Yeah.
was one on the 1st of May, and so people responded so warmly, and actually I sold way more pre-orders than I would have ordinarily, I think, although
Yeah.
it's always hard to know. But so I feel like I had a lot of kind of warmth from people. There was a lot of kind of good feeling out there, and people were generally very aware of the plight of musicians at that point and how that was going to affect things.
Yeah.
So that was great, but it can't really mitigate the loss of not being able to be in front of a room full of people and feel the energy and the feedback you're getting. And that's been tough. I'm not going to
Yes.
beat around the bush. That was a tough thing to not be able to do. So I just kind of been writing again over the summer and thought, well, I'll use the time creatively. And yeah, I've had a few online gigs since then over the summer as well, and put some stuff together for a couple of different festivals.
Yep.
And yeah, I've just been, I guess, like yourself, you're just trying to make the best of the opportunities that you do have with things being the way they are now.
When I heard the strings on your new album, I immediately was wanting to ask you, about, yeah, whether it started with you, were you writing those, or were you collaborating with a group? Like, do you have experience with writing string sections? Can you tell me more about that? Because that's something I'm really interested in doing more, especially with my next record. And it was really beautiful how you brought that in.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'd love to take all the credit for it, but but I met this great guy who was recommended to me by my friend Jim Murray, who I'm also in a band with, who's an artist in his own right. But Jim recommended a guy called Ian Stevenson, and he has a studio in the pretty far north in England, Northumberland, and it's this beautiful old converted church. And he also, I kind of chose him to produce the album. And while we were going back and forth and talking about it, and I'd kind of gone up to do some early demos just to get a feel for what was going to happen and what we were going to do with the songs. And I'd kind of gone into the process very much with just the songs this time. And in the past, I'd always kind of gone into a rehearsal room with a bunch of musicians, fleshed out the arrangements, thought about how they were going to be, then gone to the studio. But with this process, I decided I would kind of just let it emerge a bit more, which was kind of scary because I thought, well, that's kind of an expensive way to do it, or potentially. But anyway, one day in the studio, Ian played me some of the stuff he'd done with a local string quartet. And it was just such a wonderful sound. They just had this particular sort of earthy quality to the strings. It wasn't like a super polished sort of Hollywood sound. It was a bit rougher, and I thought, that could be really nice with my stuff. And so, kind of in collaboration with Ian, but Ian wrote the bulk of the string arrangements for the songs, and we kind of went back and forth on them, but mainly that's his work. And he did such a great job of bringing those songs to life. I mean, we had a bit of we sort of hit it off in terms of the types of sort of chords and structures that we like and harmonic ideas, and so he really sort of got what I was trying to do with my guitar playing and brought something out of it. So Ian Stevenson's your man. Give him a ring.
Now I absolutely need to ask, and I remember reading that you had shared the stage with Richard Thompson. And who are some of your top guitar heroes, electric and acoustic?
Well, big question.
Like three.
I guess
Yeah.
three.
Three.
Okay.
Give me three.
I'll give you three. Yeah. Okay. I'll give you maybe three acoustic and three electric. There might be some crossovers.
That's cool.
So Nick Jones, English folk guitar player,
Okay.
is a big influence. I actually love Elliott Smith.
Oh, wow.
I love
Okay.
Elliott Smith. He's a fantastic guitar player, much underrated and very subtle in what he does. Richard Thompson, and I love Neil Young. Top Canadian, and
Cool.
and I love Low. There's Alan Sparhawk from Low. He's amazing. Do you know the band Low?
No.
They're more like a kind of sort of slowcore band. Everything's very slow, very trance-like, and he has these enormous kind of guitar sounds. Yeah, I like that too. So
Okay.
but
The 2010 Best Newcomer BBC Radio 2 Folk Awards, the Horizon Award. And then I was like, well, I have no idea when he started. Like, is that when you started, or?
well, I guess my first sort of release in my own name was 2008. So it was a couple of years before that. 2007, 2008. It depends how far back you want to go, I guess. But that's when I became, I started putting myself out there as a singer-songwriter, and I had my first sort of release, although I'd recorded it a couple of years before, but it wasn't until 2008 that I'd found a manager and somebody who actually knew how to put stuff out, and how these things are. So so at that point, but I really kind of started my professional journey, I guess, when I moved to London in 2005.
Okay.
And I then decided that I wanted to sort of, that was me trying to do something with music. I was like, come on, let's go. Everybody goes to London, right? It was just very naive. It was just like, well, surely that's the thing to do. So I went to London, and I played open mic nights, and I played covers. I played Bob Dylan, Neil Young, blues stuff, just a bit of everything really, until I started to develop my own sound. And at some point I came to the attention of a guy called Nitin Sawhney, who is an incredible musician, producer, film score guy. And he put this collaborative project together, and I ended up being part of that and being a resident musician at the South Bank Centre in London for a while,
Cool.
with Royal Festival Hall and that whole setup there. And then at some point, my first agent and manager, and through that first release.
We all know how densely populated in terms of like really, really talented musicians the United Kingdom has. So, you're slogging it out, you're doing everything you can, you're making connections, opportunities are coming. But there's like, can you speak to what winning a BBC award, so I think early after deciding to really make a go at it, how that helped cut through?
I think it did make a difference. I don't know. I guess I see it as a sign, as much a sign that you have cut through, as much as that you are going to. I guess it's a bit of both. But I feel like that definitely opened doors for me. I wasn't. That was, I guess, my professional direction and my creative direction kind of started to do that at that point, and I was like, okay, well, the folk scene is welcoming me, and I guess I had, because I had that narrative thing in my songwriting. I was really kind of embraced by that world, the folk world, and I hadn't grown up with traditional music, or not to a great extent anyway, or traditional songs, or the, the great body of traditional songs. So I kind of was learning as I went with that, and kind of I had listened to stuff, but I guess that was when things started to really coalesce for me. And yeah, I mean, evidently, I'm sure yourself as an award-winning, musician, those things they do matter. In some ways they don't, but in some ways they do. In a professional way, people do start to take more notice of you, rightly or wrongly, because of them. So, and there's always a million other people that haven't got that award that are deserving of it at the same time as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you make it to play on Jules Holland's show. And then do you think I really made it? Because I was watching that going, well, he's made it. Now what's he going to do? But I've always been obsessed with music videos and television shows and like those key shows that everybody watches. Like if you could get on David Letterman or Conan O'Brien or, thinking, wow, that would be incredible. Jules Holland is one of them. So what was that like? How did that come about? Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing, and it's still now, like a real career highlight. And yeah,
I bet.
it was just cool. It was really cool. I think was on it. It was Diana Krall was on it that night, and Suggs Madness were on there. So we ended up having a beer with Suggs after the show, and yeah,
Wow.
it was myself and Sam Sweeney, who's the fiddle player, who is a fantastic artist in his own right. Has released his own album in lockdown, and yeah, I felt like a bit like a rabbit in the headlights, in this TV studio, and I mean, there literally are a lot of lights
Yeah.
around you, and you're just kind of,
Yeah.
and well, just this little acoustic act with all these other bands around, and there's nowhere to hide when if you screw it up, there's
Right.
nowhere to go. So,
You were
yeah,
flawless though. I would have totally screwed that up. I mean, oftentimes I can hide behind a lot of things and people, or I make sure of it. But with what you're doing, it is very precise, and you can hear if there are mistakes. I didn't hear, and I just thought he looks so cool and calm, and like he's like it was really beautiful. It was impressive.
oh, thank you,
So
thanks very much.
I'm
Yeah,
glad to
it
hear
didn't
it was.
feel it, but yeah,
Were you
I mean,
you were
my
nervous? Were you like
Oh, I was
shaking your boots?
shitting
Yeah,
bricks. Yeah, it was,
really?
it was really favorite. One of my favorite things that came out of that was, do you know the band The Dirty Projectors?
No, but I love
Have you ever
hearing
heard of them?
those.
Oh,
I will check them out.
okay. Oh, it was just one of those random things where it's one of the bands that I'd been really enjoying listening to, and the guy David Longstreth happened to be there in the audience that night, just
Oh,
completely
cool.
randomly, and I'd
Cool.
messaged him on Twitter to say they were playing the Roundhouse in Camden the
Mhm.
next night, and I'd got tickets, and I just messaged to say, because they tweeted something. I was like, "Hey, what time are you on? Because I've got this other thing going on, before I." And he messaged back and said the time, and he was like, "Hey, great tunes. I really enjoyed watching you on Jules Holland." I was like, "What?" So
That's
he was at the
awesome.
studio, and then we met. He gave me a little shout out at the gig, to which nobody in the audience had any idea who the hell I was, which is really funny.
That is
And then
so cool.
afterwards, and then he came out and we had a little chat afterwards, and yeah, it was a really kind of magical thing. But at the
Mm.
same time, I was working a part-time job while I was doing that, and I was straight back in the job the next day. Just,
Mm. Wow.
and it's really like,
Scrubbing the toilets.
well, not exactly, but it was like, how it is. It's a real, it can be a real roller coaster, this line of work
Yeah.
sometimes, but
Seems like it's working out that this business is a bit about, for a lot of us, is, showing up and doing the work as much as you can, creating a lot of the opportunities, whether it's to record a show or, like making sure that the Jules Holland performance is up on your platforms. And, more likely these other opportunities will come as a result of that, but you never know when. it could be years from now. It could be 3 to 5 years, 10 years later, someone's discovering something you did 10 years ago that really, just because it didn't make, let's say, the charts or, have 100,000 views on YouTube, but it resonated with somebody who maybe has a platform that wants to share you. And so that's why I think you just never know, but you have to make sure you cover all the ground, and anyway, you're doing that.
Yeah. Thanks. But yeah, I think you just have to be consistent as well, and that's the hard thing is, um,
Yeah.
you know, keeping stuff going, keeping stuff out there, particularly now with social media. And I'm not part. I don't know. Maybe I'm just grumpy, but this whole thing of content is like, what? I was a musician. I'm not. I don't
I
make
know.
content.
I
I'm a
know.
I'm a I'm a fucking musician. And
Yes. I know. I was grumpy
but
about that
it's
too
but
for a
then
while. Yeah.
yeah, but then what do you do? You're either invisible or you play the game. That's your options, basically.
Yeah.
That's how it
Yeah.
feels. I don't know.
Also, trying to make it like my trick was I fucking don't want to do this. But then when I was like, how can I make this fun? And especially when it came to like having my image and thinking about photography and all that. Well, how can I make it fun? Well, I'm just going to embrace that and have fun with hair and makeup and wardrobe. And same with social media. Like, I'm going to try to find a fun way to do this thing that I never wanted to do in the first place. But if we don't adapt, then it's all, no one else is going to come along and save me. It's my decision, if aliens came to your door, and you had to tell them in under 2 minutes what it was like to be human, if they sat down with you to have some tea and or a pint and were like, please, Sam Carter, what's it like to be, tell me about the human experience, but I only have like a couple minutes here before we have to go and freak somebody else out, what would you tell them?
No pressure.
Yeah.
Wow. I think something about the essence of being human is about being in a state of conflict. And I know that sounds a bit dark, but I think in the sense that, I mean, like kind of what we're talking about and around and about here, like being a musician's great. Like it's such a great thing, being able to share music with people, getting that sense of empathy. But then there's stuff about it we don't like, and we have to kind of live in that state of like, nah, and I
Yeah.
about that tension that is such a big part of what it is to be human, that life is kind of complex. There are, we like simple solutions, but actually we live in this gray area all the time where things are difficult. And that's why great stories have ambiguity in them, and why great songs have ambiguity in them, because that's what it feels like to be a person. So I would say,
Ooh, yeah.
I don't know, I would say
That's good.
something, along the lines of that, like, yeah, it's complicated.
It's good. Look, it's complicated. You're gonna need to give me a
You
few
know,
more,
yeah,
few more
yeah.
years.
Alien dude,
Fair
you're gonna
enough.
have to, yeah,
I think that's good. They'd probably understand that because they're aliens and they're quite developed. And
yeah,
um,
yeah.
so, can you recommend uh, books for songwriters? I saw songwriters on songwriting in one of your posts, I think. And are there any others that come to mind? And no pressure if they don't, because I'm often the worst when someone's like, "Tell me what your favorite book is," or I just am like blank. But yeah.
I'd love to. So my favorite two books about songwriting. The first one is Tunesmith, which is
Mm-hmm.
by Jimmy Webb,
Okay.
and that is kind of his reflections on the songwriting process, and also some kind of technical stuff, as well as just sort of anecdotal stuff about songwriters. And it's really fascinating.
Okay.
And then there's also a book by a guy called Pat Patterson, who
Yeah.
is,
Have
I
it.
think he's a lecturer at Berkeley. Yeah, and he is awesome on songwriting, and he taught Gillian Welsh for
Yeah. Better
a good
song.
amount of time. She
Better lyric writing, it's called, I think, isn't it?
writing better lyrics. That's it. Yeah,
Okay.
writing better lyrics. Uh, and that is a masterclass.
Mhm.
It's
Yep.
serious. It's not like
It's like a
kind of. It's a
no.
workout. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
structure and rhyme schemes
Mhm.
and really really detailed kind of fine tooth comb kind of
Yeah.
work, rather than the kind of getting just getting the raw stuff out there. But Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I'd recommend those two.
Have you been to Canada? And if you have, what was it like?
I have, and it was really great. I've been there. I think I went either 2 or 3 years, but I went to Folk Alliance when it was in Toronto,
Oh, right on.
and yeah, it was at 2013, I think, or 12, and I was involved in this kind of exchange with Catherine McLennan.
McClellan, yeah,
McClellan, yeah. Sorry,
yes,
we have
wonderful.
a
She's
McLennan, and yeah, yeah.
McLennan and McClellan. She's in Global Music Match participating as well on
She
another.
is. I saw her. I
Fantastic.
saw her. Yeah, she's amazing. And
Yeah.
so through Music PEI
Hmm.
and English Folk Expo, we collaborated on some. I went over to PEI and stayed there, and we wrote some songs together, and then we did a little tour of the East Coast,
So
New Brunswick,
cool.
Nova Scotia. I played in the Carlton in Halifax, which I
Yes.
believe is shut down now, but
Oh no, it
sad.
really? No, it's open.
Is it
It's
okay?
yeah, they had new ownership take over and they renovated
Oh,
it and it's still yes, absolutely
it's still there.
doing
Oh, great, cool.
fantastic. Even during COVID, they are now have performances and one of my
Um,
favorite places to play by far
it's a
in
really cool
Canada.
venue.
Yeah, it really is. So that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I went back the next year when I did a tour and I played Calgary Folk Festival, and
Wow.
I went to Banff and did Fairmont Springs. We did this little residency thing where you play in the hotel and it's on the edge of the Trans Canada
Highway.
Railway. Yeah, it
Oh,
was,
the railway. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I love Canada. I think I'm a big fan of its work. It's a
Yeah.
really great place, and
You've
I
been
met some
around.
lovely people there.
What kind of amp is that behind you? The Fender amp? Is that a
This
yep.
is a 1966 Fender Deluxe.
Okay.
That one,
Very
Blackface
cool.
Deluxe. Yeah, a real one. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, it's been with me for 10 years. I think I've had
Hmm.
it 10 years, something like that. And yeah, I really like it. It sounds awesome.
I noticed on Bandcamp that you have a very unique merch item, and that's 1 hour guitar lessons via Skype, 40 pounds. How is that working for you? Like, do you get a lot of people
Yeah, I
buying
do.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. It's good.
And you sell your sheet
I mean,
music too, which is cool.
I sell sheet music, and
Yeah.
I'm also selling limited edition prints of my album artwork at the moment, which was a original woodcut designed by
Oh,
a
cool.
local Sheffield artist called John Pedder. Yeah, so it's like a big vinyl sized kind of gatefold vinyl sized print.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I actually teach a couple of days a week at Leeds Conservatoire as it is now,
Hmm.
and I also teach privately. So yeah, it works out pretty well for me. I like. You learn a lot when you teach. It's really a workout
Yeah.
because people come with all sorts of stuff that they want to know about. I'm lucky that a lot of people want to learn my arrangements or stuff that I've written, which is really feels really lovely and a huge compliment.
Yeah.
But then I teach other people's music as well, and so you're having to get your head round all this different music to kind of absorb it and break it down for somebody that maybe can't kind of get to that level yet. So I find it really interesting, and it really pushes me to get better and
Yeah. Yeah.
and also to just loosen up a bit, because I've got my go-to styles of music that I like, but obviously your students are kind of broad and they've got lots of different stuff going on. So I'm lucky to teach a few different people in different styles, and I love doing that. It keeps me on my toes. It keeps me
Yeah.
fresh.
Very cool. Well, I'm going to be sharing your music and your website and your Bandcamp. Is there anywhere else that you want me to point my viewers um, this week for Global Music Match?
I think that's great. Yeah, it'd be great if you share some music and Bandcamp and the website. And yeah, lovely. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Sam.
thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Now I'll stoke the fire, oh yes, I'll stoke the fire.